shall we begin?
Let the games begin.
All right.
A new age has begun. An age of freedom.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Get to the chopper!
This is going to be quite the ride.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Movie Pit Podcast. I am your host, Christian. Thank you very much for joining me on the podcast this week. I apologize for not having a podcast last week. Some things came up, and I couldn't ignore them, and I couldn't get out of them to do a podcast. But a lot of movie news items this week, so I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to get right to them. Before we do, though, I do want to mention at least 3 items that came out last week that I didn't get to talk about. Just going to mention them. I'm not going to get too into them. They're pretty much self-explanatory. For one, Antonio Banderas has joined Indiana Jones 5. Like everyone else that has joined, besides Harrison Ford, who of course is coming back to play Indiana Jones, we don't know who he's playing. So he's joined the cast. They're already filming Indiana Jones 5, so we'll probably hear a little bit more story-wise on that, hopefully. Henry Cavill has joined the Rosie Project, which already has Jennifer Lawrence set to star, and that's based off a novel of the same name, where Cavill plays a university professor who creates an elaborate questionnaire in order to find a wife, or at least an effort to find a wife. When he meets an unconventional woman who is presumably going to be played by Jennifer Lawrence that doesn't match any of his quote-unquote requirements, he's surprised to discover that she just might be the perfect woman for him. So there's that. So he's kind of taking a break from all these action roles to play that. And finally, the new Star Trek movie, which does have a release date of June 9th, 2023, has found a director in Matt Shankman, who was the director recently on WandaVision. He's also directed a bunch of episodes for other shows like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Fargo, Succession, The Boys, and Game of Thrones. Production is expected to start on that project next year in the spring, so we'll probably get a better understanding of what that Star Trek movie actually is. Is it a continuation of the J.J. Abrams movies? Is it a whole brand new thing? Again, we'll have to wait and see on that. So those are the 3 news items I just wanted to bring up from last week that I didn't get to talk about, because they're pretty noteworthy, at least in my opinion. So there's that. Let us get to this week's movie news items, and of course, as always, here on the Movie Pit Podcast, I don't even think I did my intro. This is the Movie Pit Podcast, where we do all of the big breaking movie news items of the week, and yeah. So, sorry about that, but let's get to this week's movie news items. We're going to start off with the trailers that came out this week. There's a few trailers that we're not going to get too into, but I do want to mention them. There is a, quote, final trailer for the new Snake Eyes movie coming out in theaters this weekend. Usually, for those who don't know or aren't familiar or just need a reminder, anytime you see final trailer in front of anything, it's usually the studio's kind of real last push to get audiences in. And sometimes in those final trailers, they usually give a lot away. More so than any other trailer, if you think that trailers get too much away. If you're on the ropes about Snake Eyes and you're like, oh, you saw it, and FYI, usually anytime a studio puts final trailer in front of something, depending however long it is, if it's a long trailer, if it's a short trailer, or anything like that, they're usually giving a lot of stuff away, or they're giving stuff that you haven't seen before. So it's I don't know, I'm always cautious when it comes to final trailers. So I didn't watch it, but if you want to watch it, it's down there for you guys to watch it if you want. The first trailer for Jackass Forever, which of course is based off the TV show. I think this is the 4th film that they've done, and the 3rd film they've done for Jackass. That trailer came out. I've never really been, that's not really, targeted toward me. It's not really my thing. So, if you want to go check out that trailer, you can. That will open on October 22nd of this year. There was a Red Band trailer for a movie called Vacation Friends with Little Ray Howley, and Yvonne Orji. I think I'm pronouncing her last name wrong. As a couple who are about to get married, and on their wedding, they are interrupted by a thrill-seeking, raunchy couple played by Meredith Hager and John C. who show up. The couples already have met beforehand a while back in Mexico during a wild night, and what follows looks to be another wild adventure, even though Howley and Orgy's characters don't want it. So there is that. It's a Red Band trailer. The movie will come out on Hulu, so it's not coming to theaters. It's coming on Hulu, and apparently this has been in the works for quite some time. Back in 2014, originally Chris Pratt, Anna Faris, and Ice Cube were attached. So I don't know how it fell down the line till now, but there you go. So that, again, will come out on Hulu on August 27th. We'll talk more about that, obviously, next month when that comes out. And the final trailer that I want to quickly mention is Demonic. That is the new movie by Neill Blomkamp, which we will talk about a little bit later on the podcast. The film stars Carly Hope as a young woman who visits her comatose mother in a facility after her mother went on a homicidal rampage. Carly, who is estranged from her mother, is encouraged to venture into a simulation crafted to help to try and help the doctors understand why her mother could have committed those terrible acts of violence. However, there may be something more demonic at play with that. So this looks really cool. Blomkamp actually secretly filmed this movie during the pandemic over in Canada, and used cameras and a new method for the look of the movie, which is really cool and different. I guess they did a lot of that stuff with the camera. If you watch the trailer, you know what I'm talking about, with like how it's going into the simulation and coming out of it. So I guess they really did that on camera, which looks really, really cool. So, or at least the camera did it. They didn't actually do it in real life. They did it with the camera. Demonic opens on August 20th. Obviously, again, we'll talk more about that when it comes out in theaters, on digital rental, and VOD. So there you go. But the main trailers we're going to talk about this week is, the first one we're going to talk about is The Last Duel. That's directed by Ridley Scott and stars Jodie Comer, Adam Driver, Matt Damon, and Ben Affleck. The movie itself is based off a novel, which is actually based off a true story by Eric Yeager. That is about France's last sanctioned duel. The actual story for the movie is the Matt Damon's character. I'm not going to pronounce the names because that's not going to happen. But Damon's character and Adam Driver's character are two friends who ultimately become bitter rivals after Damon's character's wife, played by Jodie Comer, her name is actually Marguerite, I can actually pronounce that name, is attacked by Adam Driver's character when she accuses Adam Driver's character in public. Matt Damon's character steps forward to defend his wife's honor against his friend via a trial by combat, a fight that will only be resolved in death. So this looks rather interesting. This definitely has a Ridley Scott epic kind of style to it and look to it. They've been talking about, I forgot who released the statement when the trailer came out, that they wanted to tell the story of Marguerite. This is as much of a story about Marguerite's character as it is about Damon's character, Adam Driver's character, or Ben Affleck's hairstyle in the movie, because that is a ridiculous hairstyle that Ben Affleck has. So does Matt Damon, but whatever. But this looks really good. It does. I know they were going to release this sometime last year, but they pushed it back because of COVID, and now it's coming out on October 15th, so we can look forward to that. Again, this looks good. It looks like there's some doubt going on throughout the movie whether or not Adam Driver's character actually did it or not. We do see that he kind of attacked her, but it's kind of probably told from her viewpoint. And Damon's character, it looks like none of these characters are really good characters, because Damon's character confronts Jodie Comer's character, and Comer has a moment where she's like, "Are you doing this for me, or are you doing it for your pride?" So it should be interesting to see how this plays out. I haven't read anything about the book, so I don't know anything about it, or even the true story itself. But I mean, it's a pretty great cast. Jodie Comer from mostly, I think most people will probably know her from what's the show? Killing Eve. There you go. I almost forgot the name of the show. Killing Eve. She is one of the characters in there. She's one of the main characters in there, and she's kind of been popping up in little things here and there. She was in the Tomorrow War. She played Chris Pratt's wife. She also starred in Stuber, the movie with Dave Bautista and Kumail Nanjiani. She played like Kumail Nanjiani's friend or something, or like love interest or something like that. It was a very small role. She wasn't in it that much, but she's also going to be in Free Guy, the new Ryan Reynolds movie coming out soon. So there you go. And then, like I mentioned, you got her, you got Driver, you got Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, and I think there's a few other people in there that I think people will recognize, but those are the main players there. Let's move on to the next trailer. It's the first trailer for James Wan's newest horror film, Malignant, and it looks like a James Wan horror movie with a little bit of a kick to it. The film follows Madison, played by Annabelle Wallis, who was ironically in a James Wan produced horror movie, Annabelle. She was in that. She was also in Peaky Blinders. She's been popping up in a lot of stuff too, if you know her name. She was in the Mummy movie with Tom Cruise. I'm just trying to name a bunch of projects that I think people will probably recognize her from. But yeah, those are the main things. But anyway, she plays Madison, who gets constant nightmares about grisly murders and wakes up to find that her nightmares, are actually happening, and they may be connected to her past. And the trailer kind of sets it up like it's been following her since childhood, that it's kind of her imaginary friend named Gabriel. It is a very spooky trailer. One has admitted the movie's inspired by the Giallo films, which if you know anything about Giallo films, you probably know where this movie's going to go. Which again, it's very interesting if they how they go that route. But I'm really excited for this. I'm a huge fan of James Wan, and I've been a huge fan of his more horror films. And for those, if you need a name to movies, Insidious, the Conjuring movies, Saw, I would say if any modern day horror movie, any good modern day horror movie, James Wan is definitely one of those directors that needs to be put on that list. But this looks really good. It looks really spooky. It looks like they're playing around with the world and everything like that, with like the nightmares and they come into real life and stuff like that. So I'm really excited for this. Malignant will open on September 10th on HBO Max and in theaters. So if you want to go watch it in theaters or from comfort of your own home, there you go. And the final trailer we're going to talk about this week is the new trailer for the new epic trailer for the new adaptation of Dune, directed by Denis Villeneuve, who directed Arrival and Blade Runner 2049. It stars Timothée Chalamet as Paul, a prince who travels to the desert planet of Arrakis. I think they said it, and I can't remember if that's how they said it. Anyway, he's sent to a planet to protect the source of the most valuable substance in the universe. Of course, it will not be easy, and the trailer shows you that, because the trailer, it is just this epic looking trailer, and if anything, this movie will look amazing. Admittedly, Villeneuve said that the movie will only cover the first half of Frank Hubert's novel, because this is based off a novel, and obviously there was a Dune movie beforehand, but I think this one's going to follow closer to the source material, at least from what Villeneuve has said in the past. And he also admitted that he wouldn't agree to direct a Dune movie if he was only going to do one movie, because the book's so massive and the world is so massive that he can't just do it all in one movie. That said, I think it was earlier this year, maybe even late last year, Eric Roth, one of the writers of the script, said that he did write a script for the sequel, and when the studio greenlights the movie, the script's going to be ready. So there you go. All that said, the trailer does show a lot of destruction. It does show a lot of war between the natives of the planet, which Zendaya who's in the movie. She plays a character named Shani, is part of, and she's been in Paul's dreams, and they do eventually meet in the film. That's what it looks like anyway, and I'm sure that's what it is. The trailer does also has a lot going on. It has a lot going, maybe a little bit too much going on, but it is showing us the scale of the movie, which is important, especially again for those who aren't familiar with the source material or familiar with the property at all. If you didn't watch the original Dune movie, which admittedly I have not watched in a very long time, so I probably have to go back and watch that original Dune movie, even though I don't remember too much about it, and even the stuff I do remember wasn't very good. But yeah, this looks really, really good. It looks very impressive, and I cannot wait to see what they do with this. It just looks incredible. And there was an event recently in I think it was in LA, or I think it was in that area in LA, where they showed the trailer, and they showed about 10 minutes of the movie to some very selected few people, and everyone is saying that it looks great, that it could be great, that it could be another great film. So I was already looking forward to it. This trailer is very different from the trailer we saw beforehand, because the first trailer that we saw for Dune, it all related, and it was all centered around Timothée Chalamet's character. It was all centered around Paul, where he was doing his test about pain and everything like that. This trailer is very different, because this trailer shows about everything else that trailer teased or anything along those lines. So yeah, I don't really know what else to say other than the trailer is really epic. It does feel like there's a lot crammed in there, and I hope that doesn't feel like that in the movie, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that. Dune will co-star, like I mentioned, Zendaya. It will also co-star Oscar Isaac, Rebecca Ferguson, Joss Brolin, Stellan Skarsgård, Dave Bautista, Jason Momoa, Charlotte Rampling, and Javier Bardem. Dune will open on October 22nd of this year on HBO Max and in theaters. So go ahead and if you want to go check that out, you can. So those are all the trailers that came out this week. All those trailers will be linked down below in the description slash show notes area. So go check that out. And we're about to move on to the big movie news items of the week. All right, so the first movie news item of the week we're talking about is that Kevin Smith is finally going to start filming Clerks 3 next month, as the movie has been picked up by Lionsgate. Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson will reprise their roles as Dante and Randall, along with Rosario Dawson as Becky and Trevor Furman as Elias. They were in Clerks 2. And of course, Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith will also return as Jay and Silent Bob. The synopsis for the movie reads like this. Following a massive heart attack, Randall enlists his fellow clerks Dante, Elias, Jay, and Silent Bob to make a movie immortalizing his life at the convenience store that started it all. Very Kevin Smith like in that synopsis. Smith himself, of course, has had some health issues in the past, which allow him to do a lot of his more, or allow him to have a more kind of carefree attitude with the projects he's been doing lately. So they, this is probably a little bit more closer to home than his other movies for that. So for any Clerks fans, any Clerks fans out there, I'm not editing that out. You can look forward to this finally coming out when it does. There's no release date for it yet. They just started filming, although Kevin Smith isn't known for long filming dates, so I can probably assume that maybe we'll see this next year, maybe 2023. But we'll have to wait and see on that. Moving on, while doing some promotion for his new film Jungle Cruise, Dwayne Johnson dropped a pretty decent bombshell that he's not returning to the main Fast and the Furious franchise, saying, quote, "I wish them the best of luck on Fast 10 and Fast 11 and the rest of the Fast and the Furious movies they do that will be without me," end quote. This probably stems from the feud that he had with Vin Diesel on The Fate and the Furious, when Johnson called out some people, mainly male co-stars, and calling them, candy asses. And of course, news would come out later that he was probably referring to Vin Diesel, who presumably had a very big head on the set of The Fate and the Furious, even so far as to going to Universal, the studio who, let him continue to come back and do the Fast and the Furious movies, when he found out that the studio gave Johnson and Statham a scene together that would lead to, of course, the Hobbs and Shaw franchise, or the Hobbs and Shaw spinoff, which he was not happy about, and reportedly Tyrese was not happy about either for some reason. But Diesel recently also said that he gave Johnson some, quote, tough love on set, and Johnson, of course, being one to not back down, said that he had, quote, laughed hard when he heard that. I don't know how I feel about this. On one hand, Johnson will, of course, continue to play Hobbs in the sequel to Hobbs and Shaw. And before F9 started filming, he admitted that he was open to coming back to the franchise if, I guess if it made sense. And I guess that's out the window now. But on the other hand, they didn't even mention Hobbs in F9, and maybe Hobbs doesn't fit into whatever story they're going to do next. So his character missing is probably sort of a good thing, or maybe just a way of not bringing him back at all. On one hand, I'm like, this is very petty, and it's just kind of high school-ish, because it's Vin Diesel who has a big head. I mean, he is technically one of the producers on the movie, so, I mean, he is, allowed to do it, but at the same time, it's like, no one else can be a star other than him, which kind of a problem. It's, when the Fast and the Furious movies are over, it's going to be very interesting to see, how, his career goes, because outside of the Fast and the Furious movies, I mean, he hasn't really been doing anything, at least nothing successful. The last Witch Hunter wasn't a box office phenomenon like I think he thought it would be. I know he wanted to start a franchise with that, but that's not happening. I think he's been trying to get another Riddick movie off the ground for a little bit, but I think the Triple X movies, he did the other Triple X movie, which I didn't mind. It was dumb fun, but at the same time, I would be okay if we didn't get another one. So I don't know where his career is going. On the other hand, Johnson's career is flourishing. He is one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. He's a big time producer, and if you ask me to pick aside, I'm going to pick Johnson, just because I think that's the winning side in all of this. But that's just me. Moving on. Zack Snyder and his wife and producing partner Deborah Snyder have signed a 2-year first look deal with Netflix through their Stone Quarry production banner. This deal will include the already announced Rebel Moon, which we talked about a few weeks ago, which Snyder is going to produce, co-write, and direct for the streaming service, but will now also include in the works sequel to Army of the Dead. Snyder is producing 2 different Army of the Dead spin-offs, both of which will be prequels. One is Army of Thieves, which will star Matthias, I'm going to butcher his last name, and I apologize for that, Shagwolfer? That's probably not how you say it. That's definitely probably not how you say it. But he played Ludwig Dieter, the safecracker in the movie. In that new movie, we'll follow him and a crew trying to break into a safe before the zombie apocalypse. That will come out later this year. The other spin-off is an anime series called Army of the Dead Las Vegas, which will premiere next year in the spring. So there is that. I know when Army of the Dead came out, Snyder said that he had some ideas brewing for his sequel if he had the time and if the occasion ever called for it. Now it looks like it is. I don't want to get too into Army of the Dead spoilers or anything like that, but it does kind of lend itself for another movie if they decided to go that route, and it'll be interesting. In that opening they gave themselves was interesting. See how I do kind of want to see maybe where that goes, and if we'll have to wait and see on that. But for the most part, there you go. So this new deal with them is pretty cool. I mean, obviously it looks like Zack Snyder is going to stay in the Netflix business at least for the next 2 years. If Rebel Moon is good, and if this sequel to Army of the Dead is good, I'm okay with that. Why not? Moving on to another quick movie news item. The title for the new Jordan Peele movie has finally been revealed, along with a poster for the movie. The title will be called Nope. N-O-P. Nope. However, we still don't know anything about the movie other than who's going to be in it. Daniel Kaluuya, who has already starred in Get Out, will reunite with his Get Out director. Keke Palmer and Steven Yeun will also be joining in the fun. There was early reports suggesting that Kaluuya and Palmer would play siblings, but Peele's keeping everything very close to the chest. As for the poster, it's pretty ominous. It shows kind of like this lit up city, or I don't know, like festival or something, that's in the mountains. Like the mountains are in the background, and it's really cloudy and dark, and there's this one standout dark cloud that has this ribbon coming out of it that makes it look like a balloon or a kite or something like that. So I don't know what's gonna go on there, but it's Jordan Peele, Get Out, Us, depending on how you felt about both those movies. Nope probably is going to be another good one, and at the very least probably another decisive one, or divisive one for fans. But I'm looking forward to it, and with the cast so far that he has, Kaluuya obviously already a standout on his own, even especially after Get Out, and you have Steven Yeun in there. I'm excited for this. So Nope does have a release date for next year on July 22nd. Obviously we'll be expecting a trailer for that sometime. I know people are going to be dying for that trailer and eager to see that trailer, but I'm excited. All right, let's move on to some directing news, some Marvel news. These next 2 movie news items are related to Marvel. Marvel has found its director, presumably, for the new Blade movie. Deadline reports that Bassam Tariq, I think that's how you pronounce his name. I apologize, but that's not how you pronounce it. He directed the movie Mongol Mowgli with Riz Ahmed. He's in talks to direct the anticipated take on the character for the Marvel Cinematic Universe that already has Mahershala Ali attached to play Blade. The movie also has a writer already in Stacey Olsey Kofar. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. She did some writing on the Watchmen series. Back to the director, Tariq. The deal isn't done yet, but it does read like the job is his. It's just a matter of signing down the contract. Apparently, he beat out various contenders after winning over Marvel with his presentation of his version of Blade. So obviously, you got a good pitch, you got a good vision, and if that meeting goes well, I'm pretty sure the job is yours. Production is expected to begin next year, with the release date yet to be announced. But this is interesting. I've never seen Mongol Mowgli, so I really don't have anything, to say personally about the director. But the fact that they're moving forward and moving very fast now, having a writer and director for Blade, is very, very exciting, and I cannot wait to see what they do with that, and we can't wait to see what they do with vampires in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I'm good for that. The next Marvel news item that we have is the currently filming Black Panther Wakanda Forever has added 2 names to the cast. One of them is Michaela Cole. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. She just earned 3 Emmy nominations for her work in the HBO series I May Destroy You. And the other one is Tancho Herrera. Sorry, I should probably actually know how to pronounce that. He is from Narcos Mexico, the TV series Blue Demon, which is about the luchador. He was also recently in the Forever Purge. No details are known about the role of either one, or of Cole's role anyway. But we do know that Ryan Coogler is, of course, returning to write and direct, and we can assume that a lot of the cast members from the first Black Panther will be coming back. Obviously, they lost one of the big ones in Chadwick Boseman, and everyone that is presumably coming back, or that already is back, have been saying that this movie will honor Boseman as Black Panther, as T'Challa, as just him in general. And they're all saying it's very difficult to be filming Black Panther without him, but that they are going to do him proud. And I don't think that they'd be lying about that. I think they are going to be doing him proud for that. So again, no word yet on who Cole will play. As for Herrera, there's reports suggesting that he's playing Namor, the Submariner. That's been rumored for a little bit, so there is that. As for Cole, I know there's some people online saying that she could be playing Storm, and that's their way of bringing in that character. Storm does have a connection to the Black Panther and T'Challa and Wakanda in general in the comics, so who knows if that's what they're going to be doing. But again, everything in Marvel is a secret, so we don't know what's going to go on with that. But they are currently filming, and Black Panther Wakanda Forever will come out on July 8th of next year. So we do have to wait a year, but I'm sure they'll do something very surprising and cool with that. Moving on, we talked about Neill Blomkamp earlier. We're gonna round back up to him. Neill Blomkamp has given some small details on what District 10 could be about. While speaking with IGN, Blomkamp said the sequel will be based in, quote, American history, but he didn't specify what that actually meant. District 9 itself was inspired by the events in Cape Town's District 6, which is a real district, an actual internment camp during the apartheid era. So trying to make that connection, or that kind of same concept in American history isn't too far-fetched. We like to say that America's number one and they haven't done any wrong, but there were internment camps here in American history. So but it'll be interesting to kind of see what that actually means and what he actually does with that. In the meantime, Blomkamp, like we mentioned earlier, he has that new movie Demonic coming out on August 20th. He does have another horror film that he's working on called The Inferno with Taylor Kitsch set to come out. On top of all that, while he was speaking with IGN, Blomkamp did say that he was creating a new multiplayer game where he's a chief visionary officer, and he kind of somewhat teased that he's probably going to stick with gaming for a while. That he's not finished, or he's not retired from movies, but he's kind of focusing a little bit more on the video game side, which, he's got a great eye for it. If anything, Neill Blomkamp is amazing with visually and everything else like that. So if he makes the move over to video games, I'm sure those video games are going to look awesome, and they're going to be awesome. And he is just really, really good at the visuals and of everything. So I'm looking forward to District 10. I'm looking forward to whatever game he ends up creating. But yeah, I just wanted to give a little update on Neill Blomkamp on that side. All right, moving on. We're going to go over from Marvel to Warner Brothers. These last 2 movie news items that we have here, because the long-gesturing Batgirl movie is finally in pre-production at Warner Brothers, and was being the key word in the casting process earlier this week to find their Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl. Earlier in the week, a few names came out that were reportedly expected to test or had already tested and were top contenders for the role. Those names included Isabella Merced from Dora the Explorer, Sicario, Dea the Soldado, Zoe Deutsch from Netflix's Set It Up, but more recently, or I think the thing that probably more fans know her from, Zombieland Double Tap, Leslie Grace from recently In the Heights, and Haley Lou Richardson from 5 Feet Apart, The Edge of 17, and Split. There are various reports saying that Richardson had tested and passed on the role, but she was a top contender along with Grace. So that was at the beginning of the week. literally what felt like a day later, I think it was either a day later or maybe could have been maybe a day and a half or something along those lines. It was very quick. The turnaround was very quick. Let's just say a day. A day later, Leslie Grace was announced as our new Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl. Grace is now the third Latina actress to be cast recently in a DC superhero movie, all of which are rising stars in Hollywood. Rachel Ziegler from the upcoming West Side Story will be in Shazam! Fury of the Gods in an unknown role, and Sasha Calle is currently filming as Supergirl in the Flash movie. So that's pretty cool. Batgirl will be written by Christina Hodson, who recently did Birds of Prey for the studio, and it will be directed by Bad Boys for Life directors. I'm going to have to say the names very slowly because I'm going to butcher them. Adil El Arbi and Bial Fala. And a few months ago, it was announced that the movie Batgirl would be an exclusive HBO Max movie, skipping theaters altogether. As for Leslie Grace, her first movie was In the Heights. I think she has like a few songs that she released, so she's also, I guess, a singer. But Leslie Grace was recently in The Heights. She played Jimmy Smits's daughter. She plays the one that comes back from college. For all you who have seen In the Heights, she's the one that comes back from college and is romantically linked with Corey Hawkins' character. So that's honestly her first thing that she's done, and she was pretty good in The Heights. In the Heights itself was pretty good. I wouldn't say I loved it, but I'm not disliking it either. But for her first movie to be not just a musical, but to also be something that a lot of people have been expecting, to do that, to go from that to then Batgirl, which people have been expecting for a long time, is massive. It's huge, and all the power to her if she can knock it out of the park and make the role her own and be very good at it. I don't have anything bad to say about Grace. Like, we don't have that much to go off of except what we saw in The Heights. And from what I saw in The Heights, what she was given, she was good in. She knocked it out of the park. So I can't wait to see what she does with Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl. Batgirl herself doesn't have a lot of history in the movies other than Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl in why can't I say the name? Batman and Robin. So I mean, I really have nothing bad to say about it. I mean, again, we don't have a lot of filmography for her, so more power to her if she can knock it out of the park. So finally, the last movie news item, at least at the time of this recording, again, connects back to Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is set to produce at least 10 movies for their streaming service HBO Max starting next year in 2022 that will be exclusive to HBO Max. This, of course, comes after Warner Brothers announced their full slate of movies this year, 2021, were going to be on both HBO Max and theaters without really telling anybody, and then pissing off just about everyone that had worked on the movie that was going to come out in 2021, including Denis Villeneuve, of course, Dune director, who was very vocal about the move and said that he was going to fight for the movie to only be seen in theaters. Another name was Tenet director Christopher Nolan, who was also very vocal, but went the extra step and say that HBO Max was, quote, the worst streaming service in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, which is not what you want to hear from a director that has pretty much made every movie he's done with that studio, being Warner Brothers. So and Nolan himself also very vocal on the whole movie theater experience alone. Obviously, he wanted Tenet to come out in theaters, but his approach to it during the pandemic was kind of tone deaf in a lot of ways. But whatever, I still love Nolan. He's still a great director. Along with the news, Warner Media CEO Jason Kilar said he doesn't see the industry returning to how things operated, including the standard 70 to 90 day window of movies in theaters, then going to home video. Obviously, that has become a very big talking point for a lot of people and a lot of studios recently since the pandemic started. He apparently is hoping for a 45-day theater window going forward, and says the length of how long movies will play in theaters, at least from Warner Brothers, will be made on a film-by-film basis in the future. This is, of course, on top of the deal that they have with Regal Cinemas, which they made earlier this year, which will have Warner Brothers movies in Regal Cinemas for 45 days before they can go anywhere else, aka HBO Max. because Warner Brothers next year will be going to the traditional movie route and releasing their slate of 2022 movies in theaters. Obviously, one of those theaters will be Regal Cinemas. Before, Regal Cinemas like, oh, you want to put your movie up on HBO Max after 45 days after they've been in our theaters? Sure, go ahead. So there is that. There's no word on what those 10 movies will be. Obviously, we just talked about Batgirl. Batgirl can be one of those movies. Although I don't think they're expected to start filming until next year. I don't think the turnaround for a Batgirl movie will be that quick. But there is that. HBO Max has released exclusive movies on the platform. Recently, they released the Steven Soderbergh movie, No Sudden Move, which was released earlier this month, which I hear is very good. I haven't watched it yet. Of course, they have The Witches remake. I believe that wasn't an HBO exclusive when that came out. And then when they first launched, just happened to be around when the pandemic started, and everything was still kind of on lockdown. They released a crime romance comedy called Lockdown with Anne Hathaway and Chiwetel Ejiofor, which is still up on the platform. I think if you want to go watch it. This is a pretty interesting move that they want to do that. Obviously, other streaming services, obviously Netflix being the main one, that it makes a lot of movies exclusively for the platform and nowhere else. But obviously Netflix doesn't have a big massive studio connected to it. Before they didn't. Now they have Sony Pictures, which has another they have that theater window with them. So there is that. And of course, Paramount has Paramount Plus. They just dropped A Quiet Place 2 on the platform because, they have their own window. I think it was like 40 days or something like that, or 30 days. And that dropped, Quiet Place 2 dropped last week for that. So I'm excited to see what Warner Brothers does and what they release on HBO Max. Obviously, producing 10 movies exclusively for the platform is a really big deal. Let's see kind of, what filmmakers they bring in and stuff like that. So I'm kind of excited to see what they do. Obviously, Warner Brothers is trying to make up for kind of going rogue and putting their slate of movies in theaters and HBO Max the same day, which a lot of people were not happy about. And, everyone was saying that this is going to change everything, and it kind of has changed everything. For better or worse, Warner Brothers made a move that changed the way the industry worked. And you can make the argument that it was actually Universal who did it first, when they said that we're going to put Trolls 2, in homes and, kind of the same day or around the same day. Obviously that's just a small scope. They're really like, oh, we're going to do Trolls movies, and maybe we'll do it in the future. And of course, AMC got very mad, and they were like, no, you can't do that. We're not going to play any Universal movies in our theaters until you fix this. And then, like, what was it, like a week later or a couple of weeks later, they made up and made that new window. It was like 17-day window or something along those lines, for Universal movies to play in theaters, especially AMC theaters, and then they can play on POVOD or something like that. So yeah, that was interesting. But Warner Brothers, for argument's sake, pretty much changed the way that how studio releases and theater windows had changed in Hollywood. Obviously, a lot of that was a result of COVID, but obviously COVID was the main perpetrator for that theater chain. But with theater windows, the theater window, as they like to call it, obviously that's game changer right there. But as for the news, I'm very excited to see what they produce through this. But yeah. All right, so that's all the movie news I have for you guys, at least at the time of this recording. Obviously, if anything big drops, we'll talk about it on the podcast next week. Or you can just check out the Twitter page and now, update it over there as well. All right, so last week I bought back the segment of movies coming out this weekend, and I'm going to keep bringing that back because we have quite a few movies that will be playing in theaters and in streaming services for you guys to watch.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
All right, so the first movie we're going to talk about that is coming out in theaters, it's a limited release in theaters. I know how that sounds in, pandemic world, but it's a limited release. It's called Joe Bell. It's based on a true story, apparently, on a small town working class father played by Mark Wahlberg in the movie, who embarks on a solo walk across the U.S. to crusade against bullying after his son is tormented in high school for being gay. The movie will co-star Connie Britton, Rita Miller, and Gary Sinise. I didn't know anything about this movie until I saw a TV spot. I'm not even kidding. I saw a TV spot from the movie and I was like, what is this? And then I just, I did a little bit of digging on it. And apparently, yeah, it's based on a true story about a guy who, walked across America because his son was bullied for being gay. And it's now a movie with Mark Wahlberg playing that father, which I don't know. Next movie we're going to talk about is Old. It's actually based on a graphic novel called Sandcastle that is, of course, directed by M. Night Shyamalan. A family on a tropical holiday discovers that a secluded beach where they are relaxing for a few hours is somehow causing them to age rapidly, reducing their entire lives into a single day. This movie co-stars Gail Garcia Bernal, Vicky Krieps, I always mispronounce, I don't know if that's how you say her last name, from A Phantom Thread. The movie with Daniel Day-Lewis. Daniel Day-Lewis's last movie. Rufus Sewell, Alex Wolff from Hereditary, Thomasin McKenzie for Jojo Rabbit, and Abby Lee all also co-star in the movie, amongst many others as well. This looks pretty... I'm excited for this. I mean, M. Night Shyamalan, he made his comeback, and, Glass probably wasn't the best movie, kind of lacked on execution, but this looks pretty interesting. The fact that, there's some TV spots that kind of reveal that, was it like an hour on the beach is like an hour of your, or like a year in your life or something along those lines, or so they mentioned the times in one of the TV spots, and I just forget what it was, but it's interesting. The kind of that trailer that came out, it shows little kids, and then they kind of disappear and they come back as Alex Wolff and Thomasin McKenzie, who are obviously a lot older. So I don't know. I'm hoping that it can be good. Shyamalan is, I guess we can say it again, he's very hit or miss now that he's back behind the camera, but we'll see. We'll see about that. And the next movie out in theaters exclusively is Snake Eyes. Of course, the G.I. Joe, they're calling it a spin-off, but I don't know what they're spinning it off of because I don't think it's connected to the old G.I. Joe movies. But Henry Golding stars as Snake Eyes in here. Andrew Koji from Warriors playing Storm Shadow. Samara Weaving is playing, she's playing Scarlet, right? I think she's playing Scarlet. Ursula Corbo, aka Tokyo from Money Heist on Netflix. She's playing the Baroness. Iko Uwais from the Raid movies is also in there. There's a few others in there as well. But this looks really good. I'm really excited for this. I'm hoping that it's good. Early reviews that have been coming out is saying that it's kind of Henry Golding's good in it. Some of the action's good in it, but other than that, it's kind of a mixed bag. So I'm hoping that it's a mixed bag of mostly good because I already rented out a theater with my family. We're gonna go watch this, so maybe I'll do a review on Snake Eyes next week if I can get the chance. But yeah, there you go, Snake Eyes. So yeah, those are your movies coming out in theaters. Streaming wise, we do have a new movie on Netflix, which looks pretty good. It's called Blood Red Sky. We talked about this when the trailer came out a few weeks ago on the podcast. It's about a woman with a mysterious illness, which happens to be vampirism, because the trailer gives it away. She's forced to go into action when a group of terrorists attempt to hijack her flight to America, because I think she's in Germany. She's going to America with her kid, and when they think they kill her, they don't, because they don't know that she's a vampire, and then she, kind of takes over and starts killing them off one by one to protect her child, who I guess knows she's a vampire, at least from the trailers. But yeah, Blood Red Sky, that comes out on Netflix. If you want to go check that out, I will be checking that out as well. But yeah, those are your movies coming out in theaters and streaming. So if you want to go check any of those out. And that is it for the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys so much for joining me in the podcast this week. I very much appreciate it. Feels like I kind of sped through all that, and I apologize. But I just wanted, to get everything out there and as fast as I could, I guess. So thank you guys so much for joining. Remember to check out all of the links down below in the description/show notes area. It gives you guys the Twitter and Instagram for the podcast. Keeps you up to date on everything. I am promising that I do want to use those a lot more than I should, than I am right now. So I will be using those more, I promise. And what else is down there? If you want to listen to the podcast on any other platform, if you're listening to this on YouTube, you can go obviously listen to this on the go, on Apple Podcast, on Stitcher, and on Spotify. So you want to give all that. And if you want to follow me personally, I think my stuff's down there as well. What else is down there? The trailers for this week are down there as well. And yeah, just anything else that I forgot. It's down there in the description / show notes area. I did something really cool recently that I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about, but when I do, you guys will know, and very excited about it. I really am, for that to come out. So yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much for listening. I was about to say being on the podcast. You guys were on. I guess you can say you were. But thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. Very much appreciate it. You guys are great. You guys are awesome. Be sure to stay safe out there this weekend or whenever you're listening to this, and just be good. Be good people. It's not that hard. Be good people. There's still a pandemic out there, guys. Please continue to wear your mask, continue to wash your hands, continue to save distance, even if you are vaccinated, please. We want to go back to normal. I know I want to go back to normal. We can only do that if we work together, no matter what anyone else says. So yeah, that's it. Thank you guys. I appreciate it, and hopefully you guys are safe. Be safe, be good people, and as always, I can't speak now. Go watch some movies.
Whoop whoop! Yeah! Give it up! Movies!